So today we have Knockout. Knockout is the newest, awesomest, not really. It's just a new PvP game mode, right? So basically, what Knockout is this two-team auto point war, right? So just think of it as point war, where you have two teams, and you cannot really control what your team does. That's basically it, right? And the nice thing is that your team one does carry over, so there's some sort of strategic element and gameplay to that. And when it comes to this game mode, right, you gain 4 tickets. You gain 1 ticket every hour, and then you start with 10 at the start of every season, right? So you kind of have some leeway here with the amount of tickets you get, but you cannot buy tickets. So each ticket that you get is worth its weight in gold because, well, you can't really buy more, right? So each fight counts. And when it comes to the rewards, holy cow, the rewards are freaking awesome, right? So as you can see here, you gain a ton of supply vouchers, but at the top levels, you will gain legendary Abilimon fragments, which is really great. And honestly, I don't expect anyone here to be aiming for these, top 10, top 64 levels. So let's just try to aim for getting into this top 13% for most of the middle game to early late game players here. Now, when it comes to some knockout tips, what I will say is that because you cannot, buy your supply these tickets for attending, I don't even know what these are called. What do you call these? Knockout entry tickets. Okay, so because you cannot actually buy these knockout entry tickets, each fight matters, right? And so what I will say is that, guys, just win. Winning is more important than just like taking a fight, right? Now, for example, this guy Katsu, yeah, he'll give you 20 medals, I think is what he's called. 12 medals instead of like this guy who's gonna give you 9. But the thing is, this guy's in the 0.1% of all gamers in this game. And, well, I don't think I'm good enough to beat him. So, even though this looks like a team that you may be able to beat, his Tangshen is like level R6, his Geist is R6, his Nusi and Clara are probably sped up through the wazoo. So, I don't expect to beat this guy on a rainy day whatsoever. So I'm just gonna go for this guy. And honestly, when it comes to my battle records, that's pretty much what I do. I just try to secure the win because, as you can see here, a loss is going to result in that same net minus in the medals. So you just want to get these +9s or +7s or whatever it is, rather than risk getting the -12, especially if, well, you don't think you can beat them. And honestly, I don't think I can beat them, right? For that matter, just try to win consistently. Don't try to reach over your pay grade. Just chill and get the wins, because consistency is what ultimately gets you up here. And another thing is that your defense does matter. So if you do defend, you will actually gain some points here. So you really want to make sure that your defense is up to par for the level that you're in, and at the very least, just get a 50-50, right? You don't want to be getting knocked down too much. As you can see, my defense isn't really that great, and it just gets the 50-50, so I might need to change that later. Another thing is that when it comes to how you set your teams, you have to realize that you have no agency in your team, right? So because you don't have any agency whatsoever, you really need to make sure that your team synergizes, because if you don't, you might end up falling into a manual problem. Because, for example, maybe I don't want to use Chloe here because I can't really target anyone with her. If you don't know, the first attack of Chloe is actually someone you can target, and then the rest of them are random. So I don't get to choose the first hit. And that might be a problem because, well, she might just randomly hit someone else. Of course, there is AI in this. But again, you want to make sure that your team does work on auto and does have some semblance of cohesion. You just kind of get that through lots of gaming and point war. And another thing is that your team one does carry over. So for example, I will run this team. Yeah, here is, this is a decent speed cleave team that will work in auto, and it's speed tuned such that the AoE attacks will go first. I lied, Sander's too fast, but that's fine. And now that they're weakened, Chloe will then attack. And as you will see here in a bit, this is working out just fine because, well, it's kind of speed tuned enough. I might actually lose this, holy cow. So what you will see here is that I get completely clapped, which is really, really bad because this hide just takes me out. As you will see here, this hide will carry on to fight this team of mine. And as you can see, there's this little chain here. That's just to signify that this does carry over from the previous rounds, even the hide stacks, even the cooldowns. So you have to make sure that you are ready for this, because even though I killed Hyde in the previous round, his passive is now up in effect again. So that's just something that you have to take into account when you are making your teams and when you are attacking someone. So for example, I kind of made a mistake here and I didn't take out this Hyde. So now I've used all my cooldowns, and now I go up against this team of his, so having used all my cooldowns, which is gonna be pretty bad for me. So I think I'm gonna lose this, and that's a learning experience for me. So yeah, good video, or everyone learns, hooray. Yep, so I do get clapped here, and I do lose medals. So don't even underestimate this guy. If you're not even sure that you can win, well, yeah, holy cow. This is great. This is a great tutorial. And another thing that comes with the knockout is the fact that you do gain a ton more supply vouchers, right? So you gain 40 per fight at minimum, and then you will get maybe 500 to 700 depending on where you are on like the scale. I'm probably just gonna get 700 at most. You will gain that extra amount of supply vouchers. So when it comes to the tournament shop, please do start buying some things because you now have way more supply vouchers than you did previously. Honestly, I've always been buying the donor ripples anyway, but if you're a mid-game, early-game player, maybe you should consider buying the donor ripples. But if you're not there yet, then the legendary Stariamon and definitely the epic Abilimon are going to help jumpstart your progress so that you can go in further. And again, I will say that when it comes to knockout, a lot of knowing which teams to fight and how to beat them, basically. I thought that I was already, but I guess not, because like the Hyde was just too strong. But a lot of knowing what teams are good, what teams will work best, and testing for this without that much is gonna be in Point War, right? You can find similar teams in Point War and try to fight those and see if you have a good strategy against them, right? So Point War is gonna be your testing ground, and knockout is gonna be where you're really gonna want to clutch up and make sure that you're thinking these things through. And you do have these daily attempts. So for example, I don't really have anyone I can fight in this, and I couldn't even beat this guy. So refresh, just refresh and move on. Make sure you get a win. Try to get at least one win. You gain 6 of these tickets and you gain 5 refreshes a day. So you kind of have to balance that out, especially with this 10 starting tickets that you get at every season. You do have to try to balance out 1 or 2 fights if possible per refresh. But again, you want to guarantee the win as much as possible. So take your gambles with a grain of salt. And aside from that, that's pretty much it when it comes to knockout. There isn't really any secret sauce team here because knockout is just an extension of Point War. So if you know your Point War well, you will do pretty good in knockout. You just have to take into account these carryovers, especially when it comes to the Hydes. Hydes at R2 will start carrying over, so that's something that you also have to take into account. And with that, I think that's pretty much it. I hope that you guys learned a bit from this video. Comment down below what you think. And yeah, when it comes to knockout, knockout is going to be a great source for these. That sounded wrong. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye, and get out of here.